Haha. Yeah, so I had an issue. I was gonna go into the chatting scene, but I did not set that correctly. And so the audio was still gonna get saved in the VOD compared to where it is right now, where it's supposed to just be on stream only. If I get that so it's not super loud in my head. There we go. Alrighty. Oh, all you guys was heard was me. There was no pre-stream audio. That you don't hear the Spotify right now. That's unfortunate. Booga booga strong. Okay. It's just some random playlist, so I have no idea what's on there. So I'll have to like scoot back to tweak with it a bit. So yeah. Let's see. Saturday I had the day off. I got it scheduled out a year in advance, so I can get like the first like 4 months of the second Saturday of the month to get a tournament in. And so the particular unique thing about this tournament was it was a team tournament, and so each player got 1,000 points. I don't need that plugged in right now. You can go away. Ow. So each player had 1,000 points. We got an extra command point to start the game with, and then everything else was shared. So it was basically like two-headed giant style, where you had each team was essentially one player for all the other rules purposes. You could use, your army rules to affect other people if you had the right keywords in a sense, or if it like said your friendly army. But if it was specifically keyword to like Adeptus Astartes, you couldn't use those abilities with like your Imperial Guardsmen and so forth. And so it was eight teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. Yeah. 16 players, 8 teams. That's right. The number makes sense now. And it all use the same like terrain layout. I should have got a picture of that. I should have grabbed that from what's it called? The Pariah. Pure cringe 20-minute lines when you forget. Oh yeah, the audio. The music. So I went with a tank platoon essentially. I was originally gonna do like a bunch of like big Rogodorn tanks where there were like the heavy tanks, but I felt that they didn't have enough anti-tank capabilities. You got the one big Dorn cannon and everything else is basically like strength 9 and below. And it really sucked going into like mirror matches or into small knight heavy armies. And I know there was going to be one of those there at the event because somebody else from our competitive group was also there in another team with somebody else, and they were doing a match theme with that where they had a bunch of the chaos small war dogs and a bunch of like 50 corn berserkers. I actually forgot how many they could fit into 1,000 points, but they could fit a lot. It was a silly combination that they were running. My teammate was running Blood Angels. He had the Sanguinor, Commander Dante, a captain with jump packs, some Sanguinary Guard with banners and whatnot. The infiltrating Reaver, or not Reaver, but Phobos Armored Lieutenant with Reavers that deep struck because that was their like thing. And then they had the Inceptors, the Deep Strike Plasma dudes, and so forth. Let's see. Let's get some pictures. I know I have pictures here somewhere. I didn't get a decent picture of everybody's armies, but I do have these from the deployment. You can see he had a stray. He was also in the area because he drove up to stay the weekend basically because he lives like an hour away, hour or two drive away, and so it's easier just to hang out here rather than just constantly going back and forth. And so he had a whole tray of an extra army over there, and everyone was freaking out. It was like, "Well, this entire thing's your 1,000 point army." He's like, "No, no, no, no. We're only using like this section." Let's see. I have score sheet, so little spoiler alert, I guess, for the first game. So it was also using WTC scoring or some kind, so it wasn't like straight win loss. It was also it went by like point difference of the game. So depending on how far away your score was from each other, that's kind of what determined whether it was a tie or the margin of victory. So you could be like 17-3 and so forth. And so this, because we were less than 5 points apart, it was a tie. So it was crazy. The Vanquishers really did well for me in this game compared to like the Rogaldorns that I was originally going to end up bringing. Oh yeah, the tanks. The tanks I ended up bringing. I ran out of paint the night before the event. I was what's it called? Oh wait, I can do a thing. Let's see. Where did it go? Preview, full screen projected. No. Windowed protection preview. There you go. Now I can draw on the screen. Haha. I've done this before, I swear. Yeah, so this guy here, I ran out of brown paint to match the other tanks, but I already had them as a set of 10 for a regular tank company. So now I'm just going to have another set of the other tanks that I don't have lined up to max out the entire detachment of however many Leman Russes you could ever possibly run. And they're just going to be a new regiment that kind of gets intermixed with the first one in guard fashion. And that was kind of why they have the different color schemes, because I have just so many models that it got annoying painting everybody the same color. And so either I would either have to switch to a different faction and buy more minis, or I could change it up and kind of like write it into the lore. So yeah, we have the no, he was not the tank commander. Let's see, where did that button with? There, go clear the whiteboard. No, it didn't work. Did it not work on that tab? I might only work on this tab. No, it did not. How do I close that? I want to erase. Okay, it did erase now. Okay. I just had to remember what the shortcut was. It just, the Stream Deck did not respond the way I wanted to. So we had the tank commander. He's got a neat shoot on death ability. I gave him all the different little plasma cannons, a laser cannon. Everybody else had the meltaguns and laser cannons, but I just couldn't find the last bits to fix the this guy, and I think one of the other ones that is off screen at the moment. Let's see if I have it on the next page over. Team game 1. No. There you go. They're over here. This guy's usually a bolter boat, but because I was pairing him off with his ability here, let's see. Let's go over their abilities. So the ability of this detachment, for my detachment, is they can auto advance 6 inches. So everybody gets a normal movement stat, and then you could roll the dice to boost forward that many inches and give up shooting. But these guys can just automatically move that, so you can get some decent speed up and around the board depending on what you need to do. So the combo I had right now was the 2 Vanquishers with the tank commander. We're gonna be like the anti-tank squadron, and then we have the Punisher and the Punisher Gatling cannon, the autocannon, and the Hellhound as the other trio squadron, and they were going to be focused on the anti-infantry. And they had a bunch of natural combos where this guy would remove cover, this guy increases armor penetration of other attacks targeting the unit that he shot. Then this guy just had a lot of shots. And so either of these two would fire first, make it so that they would lose save and then take more damage, and then he would just throw a lot of shots to take advantage of that. And that was a little combat focus. This guy would just make these guys fire better. My opponent took all the rest of the points and threw them in reserve, and so his part of the army focused more on like completing the different actions that he needed to score points in the game, or taking out threats in melee. And so his squad started here behind the wall, and they scouted forward because we ended up getting first turn this round. And so our deployment zone was the 12 inches and like 20 inches here, and then it kind of went along this mark here. And so this is turn 1 where everything kind of just like zoomed around the corners here. Here's the opponent's deployment. They had the Norn Queen, or no, Norn Emissary? Yeah, Emissary. Emissary is the one that does that. The Assimilator is the one that's the melee. And so yeah, he started along this thing. We had 2 Carnifexes here. One of the Vanquishers that popped out to the right kind of murder-lated one of these guys. I don't remember their list too much. They had a nice zone throw blob here that was very scary to me because they had a bunch of like lance stuff and flamethrower. The Vanquishers were really key in this game. They did a lot of crazy nonsense where they just like turned the turret and just deleted monstrous creatures like nobody's business. Occasionally, when he shot at this guy passes invulnerable saves, and so they kind of like bounced off the ethereal energies and so forth. But everything else, it was just like a point and click, and it was just gone. And he was hiding another monster over here for fear of that. Once we get closer to the end of the game, the Grey Knights he was partnered with kind of pushed up on the side flank, stickied the first objective, and kind of made advances towards the middle here. He threw the Purifier brick back here with the Castellan Crow. He was doing the Purifier detachment so that they got the bonuses for holding the different deployment zones, and they would get reroll hits and wounds and other nonsense. This turn. Yeah, so I didn't have any good targets. Everything was pretty hidden for the first few turns, so it was just playing keep away on the side objectives. And then this lone operative character was just dancing around the ruins as things kind of moved in range, and he would just do actions and just generally be a nuisance. He was MVP for this event, I would say, aside from like this Vanquisher who like overwatched Old One Eye off the board and murdered the Exocrite over here. But yeah, so MVP on my end, MVP on the Blood Angel side. I guess for them, the Dread Knight did a lot of work. This cleared out like all three of these tanks, and he kind of just zigzagged back and forth over this area, taking over everything. It is. It is. I don't want to get too dry into like the whole play-by-play on everything, but also was like super excited with how this particular match went. Even though we technically lost by like 8 points, it was still a really fun game where you just have your tanks fighting kaijus. It was silly in all regards. No Krieg in this particular event. I might do them for the next thing. I still need to get the last of the bottles assembled. They're kind of all in various states of assembly on my desk and whatnot, or like on sprues still in their box. I'm working on it ever so slowly. Maybe next week I'll do more of miniature paintings, and we'll get them out and about. So yeah, so taking holds, we had two objectives each turn. We were basically only holding and trading the edges here every turn or so, and so we were constantly just holding two. We didn't bring any battle lines, so we couldn't get any raised banners the entire time. All my guys were tanks, and all of his guys were elite dudes. They are the ones who brought stuff that could actually get the thing, but we did a pretty decent job of keeping them off the objectives with the important stuff. They got really poor secondaries throughout the game, and we were able to kind of like mitigate a lot of their draws with the random stuff, even though they got a bunch of bonus CP. They had a lot of CP at the end there, or command points. This poor Leman Russ just blazing away in close combat against the monster, barely taking it out at the very end. There's the Exocrine. I think this is like turn 3 or 4 where it finally had to come out and start getting line of sight on things, so that he could help contest the middle here. Old One Eye's skulking around, trying to decide whether he's going to go left or he's going to go right. And then we have this big melee where Drago popped in, but the Sanguinary Guard with Dante dropped in the turn before and intercepted. We had the whole dilemma of trying to figure out how I was going to get the tank commander here to fire on this segment. The Huns locked in combat, so he couldn't like run around and do anything. I kind of had him here for like a pushing threat, but he ended up deep striking like 9 inches away and like assaulted things. Because Drago had the plus 3 inch to charge, so his 9 inch charge became a 6 inch charge, and that was pretty easy to do on 2d6, 2 dice. But thankfully, this was not a important combat triangle for me against elite infantry. It was hopefully planning to use it more on the squishies over here, or the squishies back here. Oh yeah, the Reavers dropped in with their lieutenant, and they just absolutely wrecked this objective here. Battle shocking the Termagants and just completely wiping them out in combat, and then tagging this guy so he couldn't fire his blast weapon, or if he did fire, it was at a penalty. Yeah, I have a lot of pictures here because it was full of energy, and the date just started. And I was like, all right, yeah, we're gonna play games. All the cool nonsense. Rest in peace, hero. They did. Oh, this is such fitting music. My tank that was murdered, but lucky number 7 got vengeance. Drago stands alone. Hellhounds down to 9 wounds, just being plinked. There was a lot of back and forth on the melee here, where maybe not back and forth because I couldn't do much damage, but I was able to like shoot point blank with the flamethrowers and like burn some of the guys off the hull there. There it is. the injured Dorn or injured Vanquisher plinking out that giant monster because it had like what a 5-up feel no pain because this was a special objective where they were like infecting it and whatnot. Here we are. We're down to like what 7 wounds. We're just zooming about everything, but this guy's been removed, and now we're just trying to fight over this objective here, at least to help prevent them from scoring more. This cheeky guy's still just kiting around everybody, being like, "Oh, almost got me now." Oh yeah, the plasma tank poking his head out here, just getting those shots off to help get rid of this blob. Drago died or ran away or something like that. I think he went back into reserve because Grey Knights are slippery like that. Oh, I didn't have a picture of it. Did I? So yeah, so he's off screen here, but old One Eye, the giant monstrous creature, pops forward to try to charge this guy. And so the lieutenant falls back around the corner, lining up the perfect shot. So old One Eye scoots over here to attack this guy to take the objective because he needs to be within 6 inches of the center here for area denial here. This objective. And he also needed to engage in all fronts. And so this model was supposed to end up here, kill this guy, and he would have been in range to do score for those points. But because he was started here, the tank just rotates the turret and just in an act of defiance just deletes him. He gets the important 6 to hit because you can only hit on 6s on Overwatch, and then wounds and just does like 12 damage to old One Eye, just removes him off the board in like a classic Hail Mary shot. It was amazing. This is the last one, yeah. Then he wanders around the corner, assaults these guys, and then just deletes this guy. And that got us the last few points we needed to tie up the game. All right. Next is game 2. Score sheets go 2. We got a defeat. We were going against Custodes and more guardsmen. They were also running a tank company. So that was an interesting mirror match. They ended up going with the Rogel Dorns, so the heavier tanks. Very durable. So we had one Rogel Dorn commander that was in the back here. This was a regular Rogel Dorn that could blank shots. This could give out orders to 2 units. The Custodian Guards, the Emperor's personal troops that guard his palace were out here on the field. And they were just 3 big blobs that kind of just pushed the main objectives and were very durable because they had like 2-up saves, 4-up invulnerable, like 3 wounds. They're really hard nuts to crack. And my army was not particularly well designed to take them out. Cheeky dude here was zigzagging back and forth on the middle objective. Let's see. The deployment zones were diagonals across the field here. And so you had that no man's land like so. And the objective of this scenario was to hold more objectives than your opponent, or hold an objective. You get bonus points if you held more. If you killed an enemy unit, you get a point, and if you killed more at the end of the turn, you got bonus points. and that was the rolling theme. And so because their army was a lot more durable comparatively, they ended up winning out in the end because they kept getting all max points for everything. So let's see. I'm going to go back to Team Game 2. Boop, clear out the whiteboard. Next picture. Slideshow. Yeah, so the deployment zone, we have our scouting dudes here. They're gonna, scout over here and provide a main threat to this objective, like so. My little combat triangle was gonna do the same thing as it did last time. Try to hold this objective here and apply the different debuffs as necessary. And then we had the anti-tank combo. So if they got line of sight across this angle here, depending on what popped out, we could ideally get the most out of the Vanquishers and their anti-tank capabilities. Because my weapons were a lot stronger than his in that sense. So they got the roll for first turn. They pop out. This guy, oh, actually, how far did he move? He was just on the other side of the wall, wasn't he? Yeah. Yeah, so this guy moves here. That guy moves across. He's holding the objective here. I think he has a relic or something that gave him sticky objectives. And that's why he was there. This tank was the bane of my existence. I tried so long to try to destroy that thing. Boop doop doo. So yeah, we did that. We shot it. We got it to what? 5, 10, 14 wounds sustained. And that starts at 18. So it was down to 4 wounds left, and so we were trying to like charge in and ram it with my tank that I just painted. These guys heroically intervened. They were kind of standing over here, but because I didn't see the guy that was on the other side of this tank, that made it so that they were within 6 inches, so they could charge in and assist, and that kind of messed me up because I was originally in position to take this objective from the tank. And that would have got us hold more next turn. But alas, I messed up. They were marked for death target because we got that turn 1 and extend battle lines. So we needed to hold one of these objectives, but they had just enough alive on all of them that we lost our first set of points here. And they got their early draw where they got to kill 2 units. And so we were immediately down those points. Cleanse, we couldn't get cleanse. And so they were automatically up like 12 points to begin with in the very beginning. And it was just really hard to claw our way back up from that. Because once they were established on the spots, it was by the time we cleared them off, it didn't matter for us, and they could just walk back on. Boop doop doop. 7. Here's the big skirmish in the middle. I think the Sanguinor popped in over here as well to heroically intervene and deal with this fight here. The custodians and guard players were reduced down to like 2 models. This was a very bloody fight where everything was just dying one after another. This group, this character and custodian were locked in combat with this Punisher tank for the entire game up until like turn 5, where they were just punching each other and he was trying to shoot at them with his Gatling cannons. It was crazy. Just as ineffectually as he could. Plasma dudes popped in. They didn't do a whole lot of plasma damage. I think they cleared off the guys in the middle, but it wasn't enough to maintain it, because every time we killed something would kill itself or kill it back. This plasma tank was trying to murder these guys, so once he shot him on their turn, he got the pass to roll to shoot at them again and dealt more wounds over there. So that was handy and was able to help save some of these Sanguinary Guard. Now it was just down to a single wound on this guy, and I had like 7 wounds left on this tank, so it was just enough so they didn't have to worry about battle shock. But it was just a wet noodle fight over there. Okay, so that was the last picture I had for this group because I was just tired at that point, man. We were losing, and I was running out of models. The Reavers popped back over here, and they kind of like tied up this tank, and they were in a wet noodle fight over here, kind of like this guy, and they were just being spooky, making the tank fail battle shock, so they occasionally grabbed this objective for us, and that kept us kind of in the running towards the end there. But at the end, he didn't have any stuff to kill. This tank ended up moving here after this guy was dead. Dante and like one other guy with like an Infernus pistol ended up coming out here to try to take the center for area denial at that time. And so he popped into line of sight, and the tank just overwatched them off the board. He got that lucky 6, and they did Uno reverse of what we did to the Tyranids last turn, or last game. And so that really set us back. And that was a good, like, what, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 point swing against us. Yeah, this was after we had lunch, so I was a little sleepy too, so it was just a slog. Just going, my guys are dead. All in all, it was a good game. Definitely learned a lot there. I don't know. Maybe I would switch out this tank. I mean, if I had more points to myself, I would probably end up having a better mix of tanks than I did here, so that I could deal with another all armored list. But I also got very unlucky in that the Vanquishers failed to wound a couple of times, or they failed to hit or something like that, and I couldn't spend the command points to re-roll it. And that kind of cost me some opportunity where his tanks that did fire at me ended up getting their hits through. And I was like, well, that's the dice game for you. So bloop, bloop. Score 3. So we are 1 draw, 1 victory. Now here we are into the 3rd game. We're fighting for middle place, my favorite place. And we are going against Adeptus Mechanicus and Kroot. Oh man, I forgot their team name. It was something silly. It was something for the Greater Toaster. That was their team name. That was fun. And so we had a very fluffy, like, Kroot themed list, and some a giant teenage dreadnoughts, and the robots here, the teenage robots, the Castellans, and then I forgot what the heck these are, but they're like tread tanked with plasma cannons and whatnot. It was silly, but unfortunately they did not have enough anti-tank to deal with my list, and so it kind of went poorly in their favor. Oops, I'm on the wrong tab. It's like I got a few pictures from this side. So yeah, here's our deployment. What was our deployments? Oh yeah, it was table quarters. So that's what we had, and they had. They got first turn, but we hid pretty well. His squad of Sanguinary Guard there, and then everything else he had were in deep strike, waiting to come on the board. And we were going to fulfill that combo again. So the anti-infantry combo triangle is going to go left. The anti-tank combo comes this way, gets the line of sight to hopefully deal with those robots there, or any of the suits that ended up in the corner. Here we have a chicken walker, the broadside, all the little stealthy dudes that had the ability to come back after being destroyed once because they're just so numerous. These are some new models. I've not seen those before. The Kroot Riders, like I've seen like the old metal ones, but not the new plastic ones. This guy's armor was really nicely painted. I really like the saturated look they got. There we go on the robots. These were annoying. I kind of just ignored these guys until the very end, where I could get the anti-tank firepower to deal with them because they had a silly toughness because they were like toughness 10 each. Yeah, toughness 10 with like a 5 up invulnerable save, and they had like 4 or 5 wounds each, and it was such a pain to deal with them until I had like dedicated anti-tank, and so they were a natural counter to the anti-infantry blob I sent over there. One of the vanquishers stayed here in reserve to hold the home objective. Everyone else kind of popped up. We drew Cull the Horde early, but we missed it by just a smidge where they had like 5 Kroot guys left at the very end. And so we had to ditch the card and get more points. We had our sneaky lieutenant guy complete sabotage here in the middle for turn 2, and then we eventually destroyed some guys on objectives. I think, oh yeah, the Reavers dropped in back here and started tearing into the guys that were left on that terrain piece over there. The Sanguinor dropped down in melee and kind of started dealing with the riders that attacked the initial strike, and then these guys kind of just bypassed that and just went over here. We had Dante and his Sanguinary Guard drop and then charge into here against a one of the ghost suits that was trying to do their sabotage and burn this objective and deny scoring that way. Boop, 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 boop. And then, yeah, here's towards the end where just this silly combo was just deleting units turn after the others as stuff appeared, and they had to come to us in the middle to take objectives, but they didn't have the anti-tank. There was a lot of times where these just survived some ridiculous firepower they probably shouldn't have. Nah, I wouldn't say that. It was very reasonably expected to not be hurt by anti-personnel weapons, and so all the damage got spread out, and I was able to keep full action economy on everything. That Vanquisher popped out at the end here to start dealing with the robots. So we had a crossfire of all 3 tanks here, and that blue exterminator should just really pile in all the debuffs. The Punisher was in the middle dealing with the Kroot Riders and the last of the robot things with the plasma cannons. So they just walked up here and I just like spun up the Gao 5 and just went burr. And so we got a decently overwhelming victory where we held basically all the center here. And this side for most of the game. We would trade back and forth a little bit, but it was we weren't losing material so much as having to just move back to maximize shots and so forth. And yeah, we got a lot of decent high scoring secondaries comparatively. They had to kill our HQs, and all our HQs had 2 up armor saves and 4 up invulnerable saves that were escorted by like bodyguards that gave -1 to wound. And mine was this tank commander that was either behind the wall here or in this midfield where they still had like a decent buffer of tanks so you couldn't melee them with those guys, and their anti-tank guy was over here that got murdered by the Sanguinary Guard. Yeah, I had originally wanted to do more of like a historical battle reenactment with like some of the sprites from Vassal, but unfortunately I couldn't quite get the program to work the way I wanted it to, and a lot of the sprites weren't exactly translated to the new edition of Warhammer yet, so they were missing like some of the Rogel Dorn tanks. I wouldn't be able to find a substitute for that to like properly represent them on the battlefield. I don't think they actually had any custodians. I'd have to double check. But hopefully I can commission more assets in the future or do some doodles myself or like work on something a little bit more abstract. I would like to have like little representations of these, but I could just go with like the little NATO squares and whatnot. We'll see. I'll kind of play around with the concept more in the future. Maybe do something a little bit more in depth on like the one-off games that I do occasionally, rather than the full event. Definitely something I want to work more into and get into a nicer presentation, but it might not be a live thing. It'll probably end up being more of a long form video that would end up going up on YouTube, but I might be able to replay it here. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of really nicely painted armies. We ended up, yeah, like I said, we were like 5th out of the 8 teams, so we didn't get any of the podium prizes. Our buddies ended up getting the wooden spoon. So yeah, we have the 3 main ones. You know, best general, second place, third place. You've got best painted, and then you have the wooden spoon people, and they got like some consolation prize. They got we got a spoon in the shop where they wax seal the a purity seal with the names of the people on it, and it's cool. And they get a buy into the next event, so it's neat. It's a neat way to give back to the community in that sense, and a fun little memorabilia nonsense. And there are people who will end up fighting over that spot, just bringing silly lists, just to throw the tempo of the tournaments occasionally. Or you've already passed the point of no return, and you're like, all right, well, let's just be silly with it, and kind of get the games moving on with a different energy. But yeah, so far I've done all tanks. I did a bridgehead last event with the Tempest Scions with some heavy tanks. Trying to go for like the Mogadashu theme where you had the Delta Force guys moving out, and then you had the armored column come rescue them essentially, or like 101st Airborne and whatnot. I did try out mechanized earlier today, not in an event, but as like a one-off game against the buddy. But it really lacks the staying power, if you will, because you get a bonus as mechanized guard for getting out of your chimeras and getting a +1 to wound, but you don't have the durability that the tanks gave you anymore. And the tanks themselves aren't exactly all that durable either. And so it was a little skewed because I was going to go up against like Imperial Knights with like 5 large walkers. We were able to destroy like 3 of them. So he was down to the 2 and 1 was heavily wounded. but the point still stands that it was an uphill battle the entire way. Although I guess there were a couple of choices I made that were more thematic than actually useful. But I digress. I think, yeah, to answer Otter's question earlier, is where there's Krieg. So I think next I want to do an artillery list, just featuring a bunch of Krieg, the different flavors of it, the troopers, the engineers, the riders, and the new heavy artillery pieces. So I do look forward to running that. I don't know what I'm doing for the summer as like the big event thing, because there's supposed to be the US Open, but I don't know if I wanted to do the 40K version and do the 3-day event, or if I wanted to just do 2 days and do the kill team, because I have a neat conversion, or like not conversion. I'm using the Gaunt's Ghosts and a couple of like third party models and running them as scouts to do a Tanith first and only themed kill team. And so that's what I'm kind of looking forward to running for that event. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do kill team this year. Now I just need to go find the tickets once I get my next paycheck. We'll see how that goes. So do look forward to some more kill team shenanigans. Dude, I can get all three of these up at the same time. Boop, 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 boop. Ooh. Then we can have this go into automatic, and they just kind of just cycle through behind me. Aha, for all your ADHD friendly needs. Let's see. Oh, we got ads coming up. Well, let's see. We're done with that. We've done that. We are. Oh no, ads. How do I stop those? Don't need those running off right now. Snooze, dang you, snooze. I figure out what the heck I want to do with this. Nope, it wouldn't let me. Unfortunate. But at least the counter was actually working. That's neat to know. I was excited for that. These markers, they were very handy. I got them at LVO last year. They're the squad marks. They're little dry erase tokens, and they're very helpful for me for like when I'm writing out guard orders or like different status effects that happen in the game. As I was getting an echo, as I was writing out guard orders for the different units, or like marking important status information for my opponents that they need to see, like this is my target that I need to mark as my oath, or what needs to be destroyed for this particular secondary objective, or like my intentions and a lot of things. So, like this guy's going to do an action here, or he's planting explosives, or I plan to use this ability at this time. This is my note saying once we hit this, like my held actions essentially. as there's a lot of stages to the game, so you kind of want to make sure you keep a mental track on it a lot of times, and especially if you're at a tournament and you're there all day. Ah, ads. Hmm. They should put like an ad screen. All right, we're back from the ads. Thank you all for sticking around. Let's see, where was I? I was doing something. Oh yeah, squad marks tokens, handy dry erase stuff. They also do some nice base attachments for all the little infantry squads, so I can help differentiate them because I paint them kind of uniform wise, at least for like the different groups. So all the Kriegers have a color scheme and all the Cadians, but there still need to be like some identification between the two. Because sometimes they run them in squads of 10, sometimes they run them in squads of 20. And so you kind of got to get that balance in between them. Let's see. So we are pretty darn close to 100 followers. We're about to hit that big threshold. I blame Kiwi, I blame V, a little bit of Hydra too, because he's been very sing-songy boob whenever we interact on as on his stream as a chatter. And so I'll join the trend. I'll do a silly song or two once we hit 100. That'll be my celebration doodad. I think I could do like a few songs in my particular range, like some Johnny Cash nonsense or so on. We'll see. I'll probably look at it closer once we actually hit the goal because we've been getting a lot of bots recently, so I'm not too concerned we'll hit that anytime soon. But it's there. The possibility's there. I'll probably do something more variety of that. Let's see. Do. What do we have now? Probably looking at doing some more Helldivers at some point. We'll hang out with some other people. I know Yesa's been chopping at the bit to play some more too, as am I. Probably convince a few other people. Uh, Friday is game with V and Poppy. We're doing Played Up. You do pie themed stuff. Here's some pie facts that have been stored up by our local penguin, and we'll see how chaos works when everyone else is just interacting with the integration. What else do we have? Sunday, hopefully I got D&D. Saturday I'm doing a league game, so that'll probably be off stream, but I'll probably write that up into another battle report we'll probably look at down the line because it's going to be tank company I'm running versus Eldar Harlequins theme, so it's going to be all the dancing clowns and whatnot, so that's going to be interesting for me to deal with. Although that'll be entirely on Tabletop Simulator, so I should be able to get decent camera angles and voiceover on my end that I can reference back to for it. And hopefully I can get the production value of that up a little bit more. Yeah. But now, what do we want to do? Do I need to go over anything else? Now we've hit the hour. Hmm. Decisions. I don't feel like playing any games at the moment. I did start a little late. Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll call it here. Yeah, we said the goodbyes. We did the thing. Figure out what to do next week, I guess. We will go ahead and raid out here. See who's online. It's still running and plans to run a little bit longer. Yeah, it'll probably be on for like an hour or so. Neku. That person's playing Repo. That looks interesting. Yeah, everyone else is just super large that I don't think raiding out there would be productive. Well, I know I'm gonna hang out here because I'm just gonna be watching that. So we'll see how this goes. Raid. Make sure I got the name right. Toot. Toot. We're ending. see if we can get that running. I'll let that time out. But yeah. Hopefully we'll get more schedules out for next week. Where we'll keep, like I said, the cycle of 40 random stuff, Civilization, 40K, and try to break up the monotony, and then we'll just sprinkle in some stuff on the other time in between. Y'all have a good night now.